Good morning, everyone. We are commencing the event now. I would request everyone to take their seats, please. I am Ayushi Jain from Blue One Inc., and I thank you all for being here on a Sunday morning for the launch of the Battle for IITs, A Defense of Meritocracy by Rajiv Malhotra and Vijaya Viswanathan. This therefore speaks about the magnitude of the event, the book, and the subject. To commence the event, I would be inviting dignitaries on the podium. I would first request Lieutenant General Vishwambar Singh, AVSM VSM, to come on the stage, please, sir. Lieutenant General Singh is an alumnus of IIT. He has served in Indian Army for 38 years and has represented India in 2 Asian Games. He is currently the president of IITR Alumni Association. Thank you for being here, sir. Next, I would request Professor V. Ram Gopal Rao to come to the podium. Professor Rao is currently the Pillai Chair Professor in EE and the immediate former Director of IIT Delhi. Professor Rao has published over 480 research papers on nanoelectronics and sensors and holds over 50 patents. He is also a co-founder of 2 deep technology startups at IIT Bombay. Thank you for being here, sir. I would request Professor Virendra Kumar Vijayji to come on stage, please. Professor Vijay is most acclaimed and internationally known professor in biogas technologies. Professor Vijayji and his team developed the concept and vision of Unnat Bharat Abhiyan, Movement for Progressive India, which was adopted by Ministry of Education, Government of India in 2014. He currently is a chair professor at Indian Renewable Energy Development Agency, IREDA, at CRT IIT Delhi. Thank you for being here, sir. I would now request the authors of the Battle for IITs, Rajiv Malhotra ji, to please come on stage. Rajiv Malhotra ji is a researcher in the fields of civilizational studies, world religions, and cross-culture encounters. He's the founder of the non-profit Infinity Foundation and has authored best-selling books like Snakes in the Ganga. I would now request Vijaya Viswanathan to be on the stage. Vijaya ji's focus on education involves initiatives related to curricula, pedagogy, and mentoring. She has studied Vedanta, Dharmic, and civilizational thought. Vijaya ji also serves on the board of the Infinity Foundation. Rajiv ji, I would request you to please brief us about your latest book, The Battle for IITs, which launches today with this erudite panel.
Hello. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming. Thank you to the panelists, to all of you. This is a great occasion for us as authors, Vijaya and myself, but it's also an important milestone in IITs, because the whole purpose of this book is to bring awareness to the fact that the IITs are under attack from Harvard and other big institutions in the West, claiming all sorts of allegations against IIT on the grounds of social justice and human rights and things like that. So Vijay and I have gone through a whole lot of research. We put it out in our book, Snakes in the Ganga, which was launched very successfully all over India and North America a few months ago. And then given the response to that was so huge from various communities, we decided to take out more detailed books. And one of the big responses came from the IIT community, and we decided that this deserves a separate book. So the Battle for IITs takes a couple of chapters from the Snakes in the Ganga, which is just one small part of that book, and expands it into a whole book. And its purpose is to tell you how the IITs are under attack, what are the ramifications for IITians who go everywhere in the world and get jobs. They are now being targeted as casteist and racists without any evidence. And laws are being passed that will actually put them on the defensive. And the reason I got interested in this subject is I got calls from Indians who work in Silicon Valley, places like Facebook and Microsoft and Amazon and all these places, saying we are under attack. We are being required to sit in caste sensitivity workshop training with all our American friends, and it's very demeaning to us. We are made to look like we are some bad people, we are some kind of racists, And if we speak up, then they tell you that to shut up, because if you speak up, you're considered in denial. You have to admit and acknowledge and apologize, whether you agree with it or not. And in spite of all this atmosphere of free speech and all, we're being denied our free speech. Many of them are on visas and they're not very secure. They're on H-1B visa. They don't want to talk too much. They might be deported. They're afraid of that. So they come to me for help and advice. And I was giving them this argument, how to argue that the history of Varna Jati is, you cannot apply it on caste. And just because you're a practicing Hindu doesn't mean that everything that goes on caste is your problem. We have problems with caste, but there are problems, similar problems everywhere. China has problems with the Uyghurs. Australia has problems with the Native Americans. Canada has problems. United States has problems with so many ethnic groups. These problems exist, but nobody says let's attack Harvard or MIT because there are some problems in society. Nobody targets it like that. So this business of targeting the IITs is sort of very unfair. That's why we wrote this book. And I would like Vijaya to make some comments also.
The consequences of this doesn't stop at IIT. This is just the first in a number of attacks that are going to follow on all engineering institutions and all higher education institutions. And we know this because we see the canary in the coal mine as far as US higher education institutions are concerned. In the US right now, you have one admin officer for every undergrad student at Yale University, for example. So there are 1,500 undergrad students at Yale, and you have 1,500 admin officers. These are like commissars who will tell students how to behave, who will tell faculty how to behave, who guide the research of faculty members towards certain DEI initiatives and sustainable development goals. So the whole thing is moving in that direction. So it's very important that we take note of what's going on. The DEI offices have entered the corporate space. They have entered education institutions, and we are all for inclusivity and diversity. We are not against it, but this is all based on US social justice ideas, and we have to ask diversity and equity under whose framework. So that's the question. We're not against any of these principles. We're all for it. We'd like to embrace it, but it has to be in sync with our civilizational thought and not some Western idea of social structure that's mapped on recklessly upon our society. So that's what we're against. And if we don't do anything about this now, the future is very bleak, because the freedom or academic freedom is going to be lost. People get into academia because they have a lot of freedom to pursue certain subjects. And now in the US, top scientists are told where they should put their energies in, what kind of problems they should solve by social scientists. So it's a war between social scientists and the hard scientists. People are into hard science. So that's where this whole thing is heading. So we have to take note of what's going on so that we can prevent some of these issues that the US currently faces. And so this is an attack on meritocracy, and IITs are just the first to face this attack. So with that, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for your thoughts, Rajiv ji and Vijay ji. I'm sure after that speech by you, we all want to glance into the book and read it. So for that occasion, I would request our volunteers to please give the copies of Battle for IITs to our panelists. And I would now request for the formal release of the book by all the panelists. Thank you, everyone. I would now request Lieutenant General Vishwambar Singh ji to please share his remarks on the books.
Yeah. A very good morning and Jai Hind to everybody present here. Rajivji, when it was mentioned to me that I have to be a panelist here on this book titled Battle for IITs, I thought initially it is a battle to get into IITs and how one should be encouraging youngsters to prepare themselves to get into the IITs, being product of one of the IITs myself. Little realizing actually it's a threat to the very existence of the IITs in India and the system of the meritocracy. Now I have meritocracy based selection or the appointment of the professor or assistant professors in the IITs. The three organizations or three fields which have been deeply associated in my life are IIT Roorkee, where I went based on merit, and then the Indian Army, where I was selected based on merit, and rose to the rank of 3-star based on the merit alone. And then no other system works in the Indian Army. And then when I was a sportsman in my younger days, when I played for India for 6 years, the selection was based purely on performance and your ability to actually win medals for India. So merit alone was the criteria. So I'm product of the three systems: IIT Roorkee, then it was University of Roorkee, not the IIT, and the Indian Army and the sports. All three systems are based on selection, performance, or merit based. Now, how do I say visualize this kind of threat? I'm not inside the IITs, I'm not a professor. So the professors, two professors sitting on my left and right, they can describe the threat in a much better way. But Rajiv ji, and the way Vijay you have said, if this is a threat, then it's a very serious issue. And I correlate this in the army parlance that a comprehensive national power of a country, or you can say total national power of a country, is some total of military, economics, hard, soft power, including science and technology, human resource, culture, everything put together is a sum total, which a country can project in front of the international community. IITs are contributing in a big way for the development of India and growth of India. And when it is, I say growth of India, it is the development of comprehensive national power of India. So any attack on IITs is actually an attack on development and growth of India and the sovereignty of India. So if the threat is real, I will not comment whether it is artificial, real, or hyped threat. That the two professors, and you know better than that. But if it is real, then it is a very serious issue. Caste system in India is prevalent. Right? When we are young child in our village, I've seen this, but things are changing. Things are totally changing. Today, the same people are sitting one-to-one on the same chair and drinking tea in the same cup of tea. So in the villages in the rural India, it has gone down to that level. So how long we'll continue to hype on this caste system, which is actually through the government resources or through the social awareness. The Pradhan, I'm come from a small village, which is pure Jat village, and we have a panchayat where a Dalit is a sarpanch. The MLA of my constituency is a Dalit. Now this is nobody's talking about the such systems in India. Why these things are not being talked about abroad? That how Dalits are being empowered by the same government, same society, and he's accepted as a sarpanch. And it is a Jat dominated, high caste dominated panchayat. So why we are not talking about it? So why only these isolated incidents, say in IIT Mumbai, or say little more, go into deeper this thing, IIT Chennai, are highlighted to malign the image of India that we are still casteist in our approach. When we were even in the 70s, when I joined IIT Roorkee, we never talked about this caste at all. We used to brand each other like Fokies or Magha or Gissu. We had these kind of terms in IIT Roorkee. जो ज़्यादा पढ़ते हैं, they're called Gissus. और जो मग्गे हैं, जो रटते रहते हैं, they're called Maggas. Or Fokies who came from the city environment, who were convent educated, who could speak better English than people like me, who were the product of the government schools, Hindi medium, and joined IIT Roorkee after 12. So there was like you can say humor amongst the student community on these lines, pull each other's leg. But I never witnessed any casteism in Roorkee from 75 to 79. Now I'm the president of 44,000 alumni community. And we are one alumni community, and we have chapters all over. And amongst the alumni community, I have never seen this kind of. Nobody ever talks about this. So who are these people who are inventing this? That the IIT alumni or IITs are casteist. Yes, we firmly believe in inclusive growth. If I have not got good education coming from a farmer's background, I wouldn't have become, or had I not gone to Roorkee, I wouldn't have become an army officer. Because you can say I didn't actually belong, I had no so-called culture capital to start with. But I have to fight my own battles. But today my children have accumulated some culture capital. This is real. This is the fact of the life. So is culture capital is bad for the family or bad for a student? If he is coming from a particular background, like our children from defense background do very well outside. They may not be very good in studies, but they are all-rounders because of the culture capital they acquire in the army life. So is it bad, or it is something negative, or it is their fault? So why they are being branded in this particular manner? Inclusive growth should start at the grassroots level. If you want to bring everybody at par, then target school level education, where there are divisions. By the time they come to IIT, they are 17 or 18 years old. And everybody comes minimum after 12th standards. So what happens from 1st to 12th? That is the critical issue. So who's focusing on that? And then what happens like in army, we have a very good system of training people. Like you are trained for an appointment, like junior command course trains you to become a very good company commander. Or the senior command course for you to become a very good battalion commander. Now these are the structured courses. So why don't we have something similar in the academics? So you prepare the people who have no culture capital or who have not enjoyed the benefits of good education or who have not been able to acquire good skills. So when they come to IITs, put them through some courses, allow them to grow, help them in accumulating that kind of knowledge and confidence. Like I was mentoring a student of IIT Gandhinagar during Corona on communication skills and leadership skills through social media. Now I am from IIT Roorkee and mentoring somebody else who belongs to IIT, and she was a Dalit girl. Because she approached me through director that I want to acquire these skills. So these kind of programs, if are run in the schools or in the colleges, to actually identify the weak students and then allow and give them wherewithal to grow. Little help, little mentoring, little coaching, I am sure they will come up. But once they compete outside the world, it has to be purely based on merit. You can train, you can push, groom, whatever you want to do, but the competition and the appointment has to be. Now imagine, I was talking to a professor, imagine all the vacancies in the IITs are filled up, say about 100, 150 numbers, based on reservation. What happens to the students? What happens to the merit? So you selectively, progressively bring them up, have coaching programs, bring them up to a certain level, and then appoint them. Or once they are appointed, give them probation period that if you don't require so much standards, but again it may generate into a different domain. Because somebody will say this has been thrown out because of the casteist or the some other criteria. He was not given the adequate time to prepare. But this is the only way actually to bring everybody, and you can bring inclusive growth by this method. Indian Army has lived through the deficiencies, but we never compromise with the merit. We said we will have officers of this class only because they are the youngsters, they are the leaders. So in my view, I compliment you, Rajiv, for identifying these threats and actually propagating, again reinforcing the merit-based criteria, which is the sole criteria for excellence. If you want quality, then merit is the only criteria. If you don't want quality and you focus on quantity, then you can adopt any method. Modifications, reforms, you can structure, but they should be slowly in a manner that the quality of education in IITs is not compromised in any manner. Changes are constant, changes should be brought in, reforms should be brought in to ensure that we produce high quality engineers who were respected earlier, who are respected now and will be respected abroad in India. That's why the IITs have a name. And you should not do anything to kill this brand name, and you should not do anything to tarnish or to dismantle the system of the IITs. IIT should be actually strengthened by everybody, by the government, by you, by the alumni community, and by everyone. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Jai Hind, God bless.
Thank you, sir, for your remarks. I would now request Professor Ramgopal Rao to please share some remarks on the book.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for having me here. I am, probably qualified to speak on this topic because of three reasons. One is I have been teaching in IITs, IIT Bombay and IIT Delhi precisely for 25 years now. I've just finished my 25th year of teaching in IITs. I was also director of IIT Delhi for 6 years until last year. And third thing is, fortunately or unfortunately, I was chairman of the committee formed by the Ministry of Education to decide about faculty reservations in IITs, how to implement faculty reservations in IITs. That committee had, along with me, while I was a chairman, director IIT Kanpur, director IIT Roorkee, registrar IIT Bombay. So all 5 IITs were, 7 IITs were represented in some way. And so these are the 3 reasons on which I am qualified to, probably speak on this topic. And I have read the book. I think the book takes an academic view of meritocracy versus the casteism and all that. I think that's all right. And but I will only talk about the administrative issues of these implementations and their repercussions. And in fact, if you study why in this country we haven't been able to build any other brand other than IITs in the education, state universities are all declining, right? Every year you see horror stories coming out of state universities. The central universities are barely surviving, right? But IITs are still, talked in high terms, and all over the world they have a recognition, they have a brand value and all of that. So, but I think to understand what repercussions these policies can have on IITs, we need to see why state universities have actually failed to live up to their promise. I mean, even good state universities have gone down so much now. Look at Calcutta University, look at Bombay University, look at Pune University. Now, they are all they are in deep kind of a trouble right now. The reason is basically, it's concerning the faculty recruitment. In state universities, what happens is faculty positions are approved by the local state government. And state governments never approve these positions. The university goes to the local government saying that I have, this many vacancies, let's say 150 faculty vacancies, give me permission to recruit the faculty. Then the state governments are always under pressure in terms of finances, and those approvals take years to come by. But then, with so many faculty vacancies, the universities cannot run the programs and they teach their students. They start recruiting the contract faculty. So that is how this contract faculty thing came into the state universities. When you are recruiting contract faculty, you don't go through the elaborate norms for advertisement and all that. Whoever is available nearby, you hire them, and because you pay them so less, the good people would not even apply. So they enter this system. Once they enter the system, state governments delay by years in approving the faculty positions. And then these people are entrenched in the system, the contract faculty, they form unions. And then now they cannot be thrown out. You have served Delhi University. You see, people have been serving as contract faculty for 20 years now, right? I mean, now suddenly somebody wakes up and says, you go away. Now, where will these people go after spending 20 years in the university? There are unions and there are all kinds of problems, and people go to court. The moment matters end up in court, it will take years and years. And without proper faculty strength, without good merit kind of a thing among the faculty in terms of recruitments, obviously the universities will degrade. The instruction quality, the research, everything suffers. And as a result, now our universities are all going down the hill, and I think that is the biggest challenge. Why in IITs we don't have a problem? In IITs we don't have a problem because there is an IIT council ruling, right, which is chaired by the minister. By some 20 years ago, there was a ruling made by the council that all faculty recruitments go as per the ratio. For every 10 students, you have one pre-approved faculty position. It is pre-approved. Now we don't have to take ministry permission or anybody. And for every one faculty member, we have 1.1 staff approved, pre-approved. Meaning for every 10 faculty, I can recruit 11 staff. For every 10 students, I can recruit one faculty member. And these are approved. As and when we increase the number of students, I know that I have 100 positions and I can go ahead, advertise, recruit, and the best people will come. And we have never implemented the reservations in the faculty cadre. And the IIT system also is a flexible cadre. What is a flexible cadre? Once somebody attains a certain merit as an assistant professor, you can be promoted to the associate professor position or to the professor position. And it doesn't depend on how many positions you have in the associate professor or professor position. That is what the flexible cadre is. You are not stuck for your promotion because somebody has not retired. That system doesn't exist in IITs. So therefore, everything is merit now. The whole faculty recruitments are done on the merit, the appointments, their promotions, everything is based on the merit. And that is what has, and then their positions are all pre-approved. No, I don't have to go to any ministry, any government bureaucrat to, get the position approved. That is the single reason why IITs have survived. The moment you start getting the best quality faculty, right, into the system, of course, they will build the best institutions. You take the IIT Delhi faculty, those 700 faculty we have, take them to Ethiopia, they can build another IIT in Ethiopia. I can guarantee you that they can build another IIT in any other country in the world. So to me, the biggest challenge is how do we retain this flexibility in the faculty cadre. So now the government, the reason why our committee was appointed was, they said now you need to implement reservations in the faculty. Now how do the reservations thing actually work? To fill up the faculty positions as per reservation, you need to make a roster, right? I have 100 positions available, right? 50% are reserved. Out of 50%, this many for SCs, this many for STs, this many for OBCs and all that. And we have a flexible cadre. We don't even have any fixed number of positions at the associate professor level, at the professor level. But reservations apply for all the cadres. So now the question is, how do you recruit people when you have a flexible cadre, when you don't even know your total number of faculty? How would you even allocate them to different as per the reservation? That is the big problem now the ministry is facing. As long as IITs follow the flexible cadre, you cannot implement reservations. Now, what is the solution to that? The solution now, what is being discussed at the highest levels is to remove that flexible cadre. Now, the moment you remove the flexible cadre, I can tell you it will have deep repercussions on the IIT system. If I am an assistant professor, I have got the country's highest national award, let's say the equivalent of Nobel Prize or anything, but I cannot get promoted because somebody is not retiring at the higher levels. And now I will get frustrated in my position because I don't have a chance of ever getting promoted. I will look for, Ashoka University, I will look for Shivnadar University, and I will start, quitting the institute. And then once these faculty leave these institutions, I can tell you it really doesn't matter, how good quality students you have, everything will collapse in no time, because teachers are the ones which are the pillar of the IIT system, the faculty. You talk to any alumni, the people they remember are the dedication, the passion, of the teachers, how they taught them and how much of pains they took to explain. Everybody has a personal story to narrate. So to me, the IITs will get destroyed as soon as we start removing the flexible cadre. And without removing the flexible cadre, nobody will have a solution how to implement reservations in the IIT system. So now that is my biggest reason to worry about the IIT brand. And that we don't know how to address it right now. Nobody knows right now. In the ministry level, they are discussing. In IITs, we are resisting. But how do you implement it? Without the flexible cadre system removed, how do you implement reservation? So that is a big problem now the government is facing, and this is the practical issue. And student reservations we have already implemented, right? I mean, what is there to now among IITs? 70% of students come through one quota or the other. 70%. Now I can tell you in private how it all adds up to 70%. 70% of students come through one quota or the other. And now in computer science department at IIT Delhi, you will have students from 20th rank in the JEE Advanced to 20,000 rank. All the 20th rank to 20,000 students in the same class, taught by the same teacher, using the same curriculum, right? Now you imagine the challenge a teacher faces, when you have such disparity in the student community in terms of their learning ability, right? If it is 20 students, 60 students we are managing, you could have taught them individually, you could have paid that personal attention. But now our class sizes are like 400 students. In the first year classes, now a teacher is teaching 400 students because of the Mandal Commission, we increased the intake by 50%. Because of the economically weaker section, we increased by 25%. So now because of that, IITs have doubled their intake, in a short span of 5 to 7 years kind of a thing. And now, we haven't been able to recruit enough teachers because even in the general category, faculty are not available. And there are 300 faculty positions vacant at IIT Delhi, another 300 faculty positions vacant at IIT Bombay. Why are they vacant? Because we are not able to find that high quality people that we are looking for the faculty. So we are not able to increase the faculty strength. We are increasing the student strength because of various reasons now. There is no individual attention. The diversity in the class has grown to a very large extent now, like 20th ranker to 20,000 ranker in the same class. Obviously, you will have student problems. I mean, when somebody with very much less ability to grasp concepts sits with another student who is the best in the world. I mean, 20th rank JEE Advanced is like a genius by any country standard. Now, when they see each other, there is obviously going to be a pressure on these students, and whatever problems you are seeing, what are coming out of IITs is all because of that. So we need to increase the faculty strength now. We need to have more faculty, more infrastructure. And but if you, I mean, I'm not a great fan of these examinations, but there is no other recourse. How do you admit students, when the ratio is 1:500, right? For out of 500 students, if you have to recruit one student, the examinations will be made tough. The examinations will be to eliminate people rather than to select people, right? That is what will eventually become. It's a supply and demand situation. You cannot do anything about it. And then, when you do that, of course, students will go to coaching institutes. Students will do all of that is required, and then take those exams and clear those exams. I think, at the student level, IITs have implemented reservations without much of a resistance, I can say. Because we also realize maybe time has come for us to open the doors to all other sections of the society and all of that. But as if you are lowering the quality of students, quality I am judging it by their ranks, then you have to increase the quality of faculty, right? As you lower this quality, if you increase the quality strength, quality of faculty and strength of the number of faculty, then you will be able to address this problem better. The class sizes need to become smaller, when you increase diversity among students. But we are going in the opposite direction now. The class sizes are going up. Now we want to reduce the faculty quality and leave aside merit and then admit people or recruit people based on whatever criteria that you have. Remove the flexible cadre system. I think these are what I am worried about as part of the IIT system. It's not that ministry is not unaware of that. Everybody agrees in private with all of that, but it is all politics now, right? I mean, to win elections, nobody can say that in public, and everybody has to say the right things which are politically correct. And everybody is now, there is a compulsive kind of a thing for them to follow, and which is a problem. How do you solve the problem? For the politicians, winning elections, of course, is important, and they cannot take any decisions which go against this general kind of a feeling that exists in the society. It's a problem that we have created for ourselves in the society. Everybody needs to be blamed for that. I don't know what the easiest solution is. So.
Thank you, sir, for your remarks. I would now request Professor Kumar Vijay to please share some thoughts on the book.
Namaskar. Today we are discussing the battle for IITs. And Professor Ram Gopal Rao has rightly mentioned that how we can preserve our IITs, written by Rajiv ji and supplemented by our Brigadier Lieutenant General from IIT Roorkee. I would like to mention only 2-3 major points which I feel is relevant for our society, relevant for our IIT system, relevant for higher education system. मैं पिछले 30 साल से लगभग IIT दिल्ली में हूँ और आपको पता होगा सबको कि IIT में कौन स्टूडेंट्स आते हैं। जेई जो है, जेई पास करके आते हैं। जेई दुनिया का सबसे टफेस्ट एग्जाम हम मान सकते हैं उसको। पूरे दिन इंडिया भर के कोचिंग इंस्टीट्यूट में बेचारी 6th क्लास से 7th क्लास से 8th क्लास से बच्चे ट्रेनिंग लेते हैं और फिर उनका एडमिशन IITs में होता है। प्रोफेसर राव मेंशन्ड कि सभी IITs में, जो पुरानी IITs है मेनली, अभी तो उनकी बात करें हम, जो 7 IITs हैं, फैकल्टी पोजीशन लगभग 20 से 40% तक खाली हैं। जब भी तक की रिजर्वेशन नहीं था तब भी खाली हैं। क्यों खाली हैं? क्योंकि जिस तरह का फैकल्टी हम चाहते हैं IITs में, उसको ढूंढ के लाना और उसको सेलेक्ट करना सभी कोशिश करते हैं, सारे फैकल्टी कोशिश करते हैं, हेड ऑफ डिपार्टमेंट्स कोशिश करते हैं, डायरेक्टर्स कोशिश करते हैं, फिर भी वो भरी नहीं जा रही हैं। क्यों नहीं भरी जा रही हैं? ऐसा नहीं है कि बहुत ज़्यादा अवेलेबल नहीं है या बाहर से नहीं आ रहे हैं या हायर क्वालिफिकेशन वाले नहीं है, पर हमको जिस तरह का फैकल्टी चाहिए उस क्वालिटी का फैकल्टी हर डिपार्टमेंट में जो सारे फैकल्टी मेंबर बने हुए हैं, हेड ऑफ डिपार्टमेंट हैं, वो इसको स्क्रूटनाइज करते हैं कि हमको इसी लेवल का हो गया, हमको उसी लेवल का फैकल्टी चाहिए और अगर वो हमको नहीं मिलता तो हम नहीं लेते। मैं सेंटर फॉर रूरल डेवलपमेंट टेक्नोलॉजी में पढ़ाता हूँ और मैं जो क्लास लेता हूँ ओपन इलेक्टिव क्लास होती है IIT दिल्ली में रूरल एनर्जी सिस्टम्स की। उसमें मैंने डिसाइड किया हुआ कि भाई 100 बच्चे तक मैं लिया करूँगा हर सेमेस्टर में क्लास में। और जो मेरी क्लास है उसमें बीटेक के स्टूडेंट्स होते हैं, एमटेक के स्टूडेंट होते हैं, पीएचडी के स्टूडेंट्स होते हैं। लगभग 60-70% बीटेक वाले होते हैं, सभी ब्रांच के, कंप्यूटर हो चाहे इलेक्ट्रिकल हो चाहे मैकेनिकल हो, केमिकल हो, टेक्सटाइल हो, सारे। फिर एमटेक वाले होते हैं और पीएचडी वाले होते हैं। और हर सेमेस्टर में रजिस्टर करते हैं 200-300 लड़के, फिर हम सेलेक्ट करते हैं उसमें से मैं भाई जिनका थोड़ा CGPA ठीक है वो उन्हीं को कट ऑफ हम रख लेते हैं और फिर उनको सेलेक्ट करते हैं। तो जब हम सोसाइटी के लिए काम कर रहे हैं, देश के लिए काम कर रहे हैं, हमारी एक ब्रांड वैल्यू, आप देखिए कि 1960 से जब से IIT शुरू हुआ 2000 तक हमने यूएस में इतना कंट्रीब्यूट किया कि यूएस की सीनेट ने एक रिजोल्यूशन पास किया कि IITs have contributed in the development of US economy and we are thankful to IIT system। इंडियन पार्लियामेंट ने तो नहीं कर पाए क्योंकि तब IITians ने इंडिया के लिए ज़्यादा कंट्रीब्यूट नहीं किया था, परंतु 2014 से हमने एक कार्यक्रम शुरू किया उन्नत भारत अभियान, और उसमें IITs, NITs, हायर एजुकेशन सिस्टम के स्टूडेंट्स, फैकल्टी गाँव तक पहुँचते हैं, गाँव में कंट्रीब्यूट करते हैं। और अभी पूरे देश भर में IIT दिल्ली लीड कर रहा है एक कार्यक्रम को, और हम लोग सोसाइटी में जाते हैं, गांव का डेवलपमेंट कैसे हो, इंक्लूसिव कैसे बने। अगर मैं बात करूं विजन ऑफ आवर उन्नत भारत अभियान, सो इट इज इंस्पायर्ड बाय द विजन ऑफ ट्रांसफॉर्मेशनल चेंज इन आवर रूरल डेवलपमेंट प्रोसेसेस, लीवरेजिंग हायर एजुकेशन फॉर इंक्लूसिव आर्किटेक्चर ऑफ our country. It includes all IITs, NITs, IISERs, central institutes, state universities, and how we are aspiring for say developed country by 2047। 100 साल में हम एस्पायर कर रहे हैं कि हम लोग एक डेवलप्ड कंट्री क्रेडिट लेवल पे आ जाएंगे। G20 की प्रेसिडेंसी हमको अभी इस साल मिली हुई है और हम लोग पूरी दुनिया को डायरेक्शन दे रहे हैं। आप देखिए, आवर प्राइम मिनिस्टर इज द वर्ल्ड टॉप लीडर इन द वर्ल्ड, नंबर 1 लीडर इन द वर्ल्ड। इंडियन सोसाइटी ने पिछले जो 5-7 हज़ार साल का हमारा निचोड़ है उसमें यह है कि वी आर एबल टू प्रोवाइड डायरेक्शन टू द वर्ल्ड कि क्लाइमेट चेंज नहीं हो, हमको अपनी लाइफ स्टाइल कैसे करनी हो कि लाइफ स्टाइल फॉर एनवायरनमेंट। वेस्ट की अगर बात करें तो पिछले 50 साल में जो वर्ल्ड आया है वेस्ट, इंडिया में वेस्ट नाम की कोई चीज़ नहीं होती थी, हर चीज़ रिसाइकिल होती थी। वी वर हैविंग रिसाइकिलिंग इकोनॉमी। हमारे गांव इतने प्रतिष्ठित होते थे कि वी वर कॉल्ड सोने की चिड़िया कहलाते थे खाली 300 साल पहले। तो IIT कैन कंट्रीब्यूट इन ए सिग्निफिकेंट वे बिकॉज इट हैज एस्टेब्लिश आवर ब्रांड इन द वेस्टर्न कंट्रीज। और उसको अगर मेंटेन करना है तो वी फील कि इट इज़ असेंशियल कि द फैकल्टी इज द क्रक्स ऑफ इट। तो अगर फैकल्टी की लेवल को आप कम करेंगे तो वो ठीक नहीं होगा। हम जनरल कैटेगरी के कैंडिडेट्स नहीं भर पा रहे हैं, तो और दूसरे जो हम और कम उसको करेंगे हमारी क्वालिटी को, तो फिर वो ठीक नहीं रहेगा। तो हमको ऐसा सिस्टम बनाने की ज़रूरत है। वी आर द सोशल कंट्री। हमारी जो 140 करोड़, हम दुनिया के नंबर 1 हो गए हैं पॉपुलेशन में। हमारा यूथ पूरी दुनिया में सबसे ज़्यादा है, जो कि अगले 50 साल में सबसे ज़्यादा कंट्रीब्यूट करेगा पूरी दुनिया के लिए। तो हमको हमारे सिस्टम भी उस तरह लेवल पे लाने पड़ेंगे। और अगर हमको वास्तव में विकसित देश बन रहा है तो हमारे गांव भी विकसित हों, हमारे गांव में भी वही सुविधा हो जो हमारे शहर में होती है, और हम उस लेवल पे ऑपरेट कर पाएँ कि हमारी IITs जो 7 होती थी अब 23 हो गए, 23 IITs आर देयर, एटलीस्ट 1 इन एवरी स्टेट। सो वी हैव टू मेंटेन दैट क्वालिटी। और आप देखिए कि प्रोफेसर राव ने ठीक कहा कि IIT का ब्रांड अभी तक फिर भी नाम चल रहा है पूरी दुनिया में, पर स्टेट यूनिवर्सिटीज़ की और सेंट्रल यूनिवर्सिटीज़ की क्या हालत है आप सब देख रहे हैं। एजुकेशन, ओवरऑल एजुकेशन सिस्टम इज डिटोरेटिंग। कोई भी एक BA BCom BSc BTech करके आएगा, बच्चे को आप पूछो कितने हज़ार की नौकरी लग जाएगी तेरी, नहीं कि कोई चांस ही नहीं है नौकरी लगने का। BA BCom BSc BTech। तो हमको सोचना पड़ेगा कि हाउ वी कैन एंगेज आवर एजुकेशन सिस्टम टू आवर लाइवलीहुड, कि हम पढ़ लिख के जाएँ, तो पढ़ लिख के बाद अपनी ज़िंदगी जीवन यापन का भी हमको तजुर्बा गुण आ जाए, वो सिस्टम हमको डेवलपमेंट करना पड़ेगा। और IITs में आप देखिए कि हम पर्सनालिटी डेवलप पे बहुत जोर देते हैं। हमारे स्टूडेंट्स आप देखिए कोर फील्ड में काम नहीं करने ज़्यादातर लोग, 70-60-70% हमारे दुनिया में चाहे वर्ल्ड बैंक्स में जाते हैं या कंसल्टेंसी में जाते हैं, दूसरी जो उनका कोर है फिजिक्स, ये सिविल इंजीनियरिंग है या मैकेनिकल इंजीनियरिंग में, उसमें नहीं जाते हैं, टेक्सटाइल में नहीं जाते हैं, केमिकल में नहीं जा रहे हैं, पर वो जा रहे हैं कंसल्टिंग में, वो बैंक्स में, फाइनेंस में, दूसरे में। चाहे डिग्री कोई सी भी हो, क्योंकि हम उनकी पर्सनालिटी को इस लेवल बना देते हैं। तो उसको मेंटेन करना है तो हमारे को उनके जो टीचर हैं उनके लिए रेस्पेक्ट भी होना चाहिए स्टूडेंट्स में। और वो तब आएगा रेस्पेक्ट, कब आएगा बताइए आप। टीचर के लिए हमारे मन में रेस्पेक्ट कब होता है? जब उनको लगता है कि ये मेरे को डिलीवर करने के लायक है। मैं क्लास लेता हूँ, मैं जब क्लास लेता हूँ तो कोविड में हमने देखा कि लगभग 50% अटेंडेंस, 40% अटेंडेंस रहती थी। मैं जब कोविड के बाद में जब वापस शुरू की तो मेरी क्लास में मैं चाहता हूँ अटेंडेंस 100% रहे। और लड़कों को भी लगता है कि वो अपने आप आ जाते हैं दौड़ दौड़ के, कि भाई मैं सर की क्लास मिस करेंगे तो वो टेक्स्ट बुक में नहीं मिलेगा, वो हमको किताब में नहीं मिलेगा, कहीं पढ़ने में इंटरनेट में नहीं मिलेगा, वो जो पढ़ा रहे हैं वो तो वो ही पढ़ा सकते हैं। तो दैट्स वाई दे अटेंड 100% अटेंडेंस इज देयर इन माई क्लास। तो आपको हमको ये सिस्टम बनाना पड़ेगा कि हमारे जो टीचर हों किस लायक हों, और अब वो अगर मेंटेन कर पाएंगे जो कि राजीव जी ने कहा है, तो हमारा देश का भी भला होगा, हमारे समाज का भी भला होगा, और हम जो विकसित राष्ट्र की बात 2047 तक हमारी परिकल्पना है उसको हम साकार कर पाएंगे। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
Thank you, sir, for your remarks. This takes us to the panel discussion. The speech of the panelists was so in-depth. I'm sure the panel discussion will be exceptionally informational. After the panel discussion, we'll be having a Q&A session followed by media interactions and book signings. So I would request everyone to keep forming their questions if they have any during the panel discussion. Volunteers will be collecting the questions from the audience and we'll be asking the panel then. We will now begin the panel discussion. Over to you, Pete.
You want me to lead the panel discussion? You lead the panel. So, you want me to moderate? Okay. Okay. So we can have.
Any question? Yeah. Anybody? Yeah. Yeah.
How is it formatted? So it's Q&A. We started with Q&A.
Yeah.
Because if it's a discussion, then somebody has to initiate.
No, it's a QA.
Q&A, she wants panel discussion.
So if you have any remarks, more further remarks on the book, and if you want to discuss with the panel, we can do that.
Thank you very much, everyone, for wonderful remarks. I hope that we're going tomorrow to IIT Kanpur for some presentation. Then we're going to Mumbai, IIT Bombay. So we are doing our best to bring more IITs into this picture. But you know, one is the interest of the faculty, if you look at stakeholders. Another is the interest of the students. But the interest of the students who've graduated and go out looking in the job market are now facing a stigma. They're facing this prejudice that you people are something wrong with you. So that is what has to flow back into the IITs. So far, the IITs have not felt the pain, but once the alumni start feeling the pain and bringing it back, IITians will not be able to say, people sitting in the faculty will not be able to say, it's not our job, it's too controversial, we don't want to do it. Just like the reputation of the IIT went up because of the alumni going around the world, because of the people becoming the Sundar Pichais and all that. That is what built up the IIT reputation. Same way, and the amount of billions of dollars coming back from repatriation. Same way, when that that prestige and branding goes down, and it works negatively, and there is negative press, you can be sure that this will feed back into the IIT sitting here in India. You will not be able to hide. So think of it as an advance warning of what is happening, and you cannot escape from it. That is my, because often I hear IIT professors and faculty, half of them are very interested in this problem, want to do something about it. But there are so many who say, "Hamara problem kya hai? Hum to baithe hain, we don't want to say anything controversial, provocative." I think that's irresponsible, because you have to think of the interest of the student who goes afterwards, and if he's suffering and he's your product, then you have to take it seriously. So this is my comment.
Add whatever you said, sir, and share very briefly some personal experiences. In Roorkee, known is a unique culture of mentoring and grooming by the seniors. When I joined, I belonged to a very small village, studied in Hindi medium, so we had no clue how to cope with the changed curriculum and higher education in English medium. It is the seniors, the second year students who taught us, who prepared us for 6 months, and after that we became quite familiar. In fact, I didn't have to buy a single book in entire duration of 4 years of my study. The books were passed on by the seniors to the juniors. Every time. Not even one book I bought in an entire duration of my studies at IIT Roorkee. Library or seniors. Whenever we went, whenever we felt low, it happens. And many things happen when you're a young student. The seniors and the teachers, we had the best of the student-teacher relationships. It's lifelong, and how you build a relationship the way you described. If you have faith in your teacher, the IIT, then University of Roorkee, had the best of teachers. They are names today, like Dr. Premal Krishna, Dr. Jai Krishna, Padma Shri, Ghananand Pandey, you name it. They were known globally. They were the art teachers. So whenever we felt low or this thing, we went to them. And there was no discrimination. This is a young village boy who come to me, and we went, Guruji, Hindi mein, Guruji, ye problem hai. Kaise? Their wives fed us at home. Now this is the relationship, and that's why this culture is unique. We went to IIT Roorkee through our merit, the system of entrance examination. But there we were treated. It has the best infrastructure for sports. University of Roorkee, even today, IIT Roorkee has the best infrastructure for sports. So 3 pillars of growth, which I actually experienced in IIT Roorkee, was Shiksha. The focus was on Shiksha. The focus was on health. And the focus was on Sanskar. Sanskar. And it is equally important for growth and development of our country. If we can't give right Sanskar to our students or children at the higher education level, then we will be faltering somewhere in their growth and development. And there is no better Sanskar than Rashtrahit. So in your recommendations, I read your book, you've given from page 121 to 22, 9 sets of recommendations how to cope with this threat. I will add few more in your recommendation, and we can actually take it forward to IIT Roorkee. At least I'm the president to my alumni people to make them aware of this threat, is that we never talk about the national security. And the students at IITs understand, because I've been to IIT Gandhinagar a couple of times, because one of my course mates established IIT Gandhinagar and then nurtured it. It's a unique IIT when you visit it. It's a greenfield IIT created by him, Professor Sudhir Jain Padma Shri, who's now the Vice Chancellor of VHU. And it is because of that best sports infrastructure, we focused on Sehat and then the Sanskar. Those three pillars, and combined with national security, that make them aware of national security and components of the national security and sovereignty, and how they are contributing towards the national security. Because it is being actually debated as a caste issue or racial issue or discrimination against Dalit. It's not. It is a serious national security implication. If you target the IITs, you are targeting actually the growth and development of India. If you link it with the national security and comprehensive national power, probably the same issue or same subject will little more impact on the younger minds, and they will understand it better. Thank you.
To make 2 points which are not covered so far. One is this perception that IIT students go abroad, right? In the last 10 years, IIT Delhi data, IIT Bombay data I am aware of, less than 5% of students are going abroad. Less than 5%. If you see all these unicorns, right? 2/3 of those unicorns have some IITian or the other behind them. So if you are seeing suddenly 107 unicorns in this country, where have they come from? It's these people who have not gone abroad and built these unicorns. Everything started with, I can name 33 unicorns which have IIT Delhi alumni behind them. So I think that is one thing which they have done. The second thing I read in the book is the criticism that IITs receive a lot of funding, right? IITs don't receive a lot of funding. Other institutions receive less funding. That is how one should put it. IIT funding which you receive, after all, I was director for 6 years, so I should know. The money goes for payment of salaries, right? What the ministry gives as a grant, and then it goes for payment of pensions. It goes for payment of scholarships. After that, what is left is about 20 crores, which is required to maintain these 50, 500 acre campuses that we all have. That's all the money that we receive. So that there is no extra money that I can suddenly build a 100 crore facility. There is nothing like that. IIT Delhi has a loan from Canara Bank of 630 crores. IIT Bombay has a similar kind of a loan. IIT Madras has a similar kind of a loan. We are all taking loans from banks to build the infrastructure. Now here someone saying that you receive a lot of money and all of that. It's all just a myth that is perpetuated. India, unfortunately, is not spending enough money on higher education. As a percentage of GDP, our expenditure is less than 0.7%, while the world average is 1.8%. And the countries like China, US, all of them spend anywhere above 2.5%, much larger economies. India is not spending enough money on higher education. Everybody else should receive much more money than what they are receiving right now. So.
I want to add one more thing to what Rajiv ji mentioned. This is going to come home to roost for even to people who think it doesn't affect them. In fact, most of the scientific journals have made it impossible for people to publish anymore if it is not it's not in the direction that they're looking for. Example, if you're sitting in IIT and not solving a Dalit problem or something through technology, in the future you won't be able to publish your work because it's not towards sustainability. So what China has done is it's trying to move away from this citation index, the science citation index that is used to measure how many articles a professor publishes, and that's how they recruit scholars. So China says we need to disconnect from the Western science citation index and create their own journals for science, because their own journals for science are better equipped to decide what kind of science China needs to work on, and not base them on Western rubric of what are the problems that science needs to tackle. So this is all coming very, very fast down the pike, and our researchers and scholars in India who don't want to participate in these kinds of discussions will soon find that their academic freedom is totally lost. And this is because they haven't participated in this discussion.
Along the same lines, what I want to say is that this whole attack on IITs is not an attack from technocrats, but from social scientists. So this is another interesting thing. Social sciences people are now encroaching into the field of technology because they're jealous that they're not really legitimate or scientific, or they don't have career opportunities, and the technocrats have moved ahead and done very well. So it is a social science models of justice and fair education and whatnot. And as Vijaya said, scientific journals are now beginning to, from starting with Scientific American and its influence all over the world, including in India. Scientific journals are beginning to decide social policy on what kind of research should be funded. In other words, it used to be that if it's technically interesting and it make a breakthrough and you can get some new theories or you can get some new materials or new engineering, then it's the technocrats who decide. But under the rubric of social relevance, what is socially relevant, they are deciding things like will it help the LGBTQ community? Will it help the black community? Are there enough Dalits representative? So now the lot of scientists in the Western world, and that influence is coming into India, are very upset at this because China does not care about these things. It's moving ahead because it's wanting meritocracy. China is going ahead with its technocrats, scientific education purely on meritocracy. They're not saying, are there enough Tibetans and enough people from Uyghur Muslims and this region, that region? They're not concerned about it. They just want the country to get the best brains. If you were creating a cricket team based on some quota, you're not going to win. Not going to win. If you are going to create a military based on some kind of allocation of quota, you're not going to win. If you are going to create so now this problem is entering the corporate structure because of American influence. So once these Silicon Valley companies in the US and other, pharma companies and all those companies which have subsidiaries in India, once they make it official policy globally, which they are going to within the next year or two, these are the things being discussed in the HR departments there. Once this becomes global policy on human rights and social justice, and anyone who's a Dalit files a complaint, then the upper caste manager has to be fired or inquiry against him, things like that. What you're going to see is this kind of thing will come to India because you'll have Microsoft subsidiary and Google subsidiary and all these Amazon subsidiaries will start implementing the same global policies, and they will also implement it on the outsourcing. The companies like TCS and Infosys who do outsourcing will be subject to the same policies. I have a friend in World Bank who told me this, and we are going to put out that interview in the next couple of weeks. His interview is going to come out on our video channel. And he says that the same people have gone to World Bank and started preaching that World Bank loans and funding around the world should be caste sensitive. They should look at, does a project hire enough caste people of a certain caste? Are there too many people of a certain caste? Does it hire enough minorities? So in other words, whether you will get your loan or not will depend on some people sitting there looking at it from a social science point of view. So the development of the country and the development of its science and technology and education has now been hijacked by the social scientists. This is a very important point that you should think about.
No, please, no camera, please. Thanks. Okay. Can I speak? Yeah. Professor, do you see this thing being more of a point towards the democratic government in the US? Because if I look at the Republicans, they're more, let's say, politically incorrect. They don't majorly cater to these ideas, right? I mean, in the Trump years, I didn't see that much emphasis on this, right? But if you look at the Biden years or maybe Obama back in the day, right, it used to be way more. So do you think it's more in the alignment of the right and the left in the political establishment, or do you see it as a general trend
So
going forward?
I'll answer the question. Question is it the left in the United States starting this? And the answer is yes. So if you read the book Snakes in the Ganga, we explain how this comes from. There is Marxism, which has generated something called critical race theory, and critical race theory has now turned into critical caste theory, and this critical caste theory is now being implemented, and this whole thing is the extreme left wing social scientists. Social scientists tend to be extreme left wing, and so that is the model which is generating this kind of thinking. You're absolutely right.
Okay, I have two questions. One is for Professor Rao and the other for Rajiv and Vijaya. Professor Rao, why do we see so many IITians pursuing an MBA? The biggest example right now comes to mind is Ajay Banga's brother. Ajay Banga, incidentally, has just taken over as president of World Bank as nominated by Biden. His brother is an IIT, goes to IIM, and now earns $30 million a year. His annual package is that, working as a, for an equity fund. So that is my first question. My second question is to both Rajiv and Vijaya. You also mentioned in the book that the IITs themselves seem a little disinterested and, have been irresponsible. So how do you plan to combat that?
I think, in fact, I have been writing articles about it. It appeared in Times of India and all that. Now, our biggest challenge now is less than 5% of IIT students, right, are going for higher education. Less than 5%. 95% of them, for some reason or the other, they all want jobs after BTech. They don't want to study anything further. That may be a burnout effect. They have gone through the whole rigor of the system, and after BTech, they all want jobs. Now, after BTech, you can get a job, right? But with an MBA, you can get a better job. So therefore, that's the only thing which is driving them. There is not that they have a great love for MBA or anything. It will get them a higher pay package, and they are all choosing that. And in fact, I have argued in my articles. They're all there, on the newspapers, and where I said, India is not able to do well in new technologies. We are still stuck with IT, right? But even all our startups, 107 startups, are all in e-commerce, fintech kind of areas. Nothing in the deep technology, right? No Indian unicorn in the deep technology space. Why is that? Because all our bright minds aren't even pursuing higher education. If you want to start a company in biotechnology, you need a lot of understanding of biotechnology. You need sometimes a PhD in biotechnology, quantum technology, nanotechnology. We have none because all our bright scholars aren't pursuing higher education, which is a fear of missing out factor. And they all come under some kind of a peer pressure to take up jobs after MTech. My own daughter, why does she need to work? But no, everybody is doing a job after BTech. I also want to do a job after BTech.
Hello? Yeah. I want to continue the same because I think it's a very important point. It is not that IITians going to MBA is the issue. The real problem is different. IITs are not producing people who are working engineers. They are working businessmen. They are working in corporate sector. They use IIT as a kind of a starting point and then move on to something which may not require engineering. How many of them are actually doing engineering work? This is the question. This would be an interesting survey. What percent of IITians 5 years after graduating are practicing as engineers doing engineering work? Very few, very few. So it means that we're not really becoming a nation of engineers. We're becoming a nation of some kind of administrative people. They're getting administrative jobs. So IIT is sort of a thappa, which means that this guy must be sharp because he got through in the entrance exam and he worked for so many years. So he must be intelligent. We're hiring an intelligent person, not because he knows we don't need any of his mechanical engineering. We don't need any of his chemical engineering. We just need a smart fellow and he will run our business. So the investment in training engineering is not being used to convert into engineers, and we are importing technology because we're not developing technology. So this is an area I want to see if the IITians if the IIT professors would, or any of you panelists would like to comment that why is it, despite lakhs of people produced by IITs, there isn't that only a very small percent of them are actually producing good, solid, innovative engineering. Anybody?
Yeah. So ultimately, it comes to the question of society. as a parent, if the children is going in IIT system, what is their objective of sending a student in IITs? The objective is that how much package he will get after passing out IIT system. So that is a peer pressure कि मेरे बच्चे को कितना लाख का पैकेज मिला है बीटेक करने के बाद में. And that is the question all IITians are asking themselves कि भैया मेरे को कितने का पैकेज मिलेगा, मेरे को MBA करने से ज़्यादा पैकेज मिलेगा या बीटेक करने के बाद ज़्यादा पैकेज मिलेगा. And that's why this is a road to race where a family is aspiring, student is aspiring कि मेरे को कितना पैकेज मिल रहा है, और accordingly they are choosing the subject.
So,
to
so
add to
my
that
question then is different. If IITs are producing people who are optimizing income, maximum income, and maximum income comes from jobs other than engineering. So then my question to the IIT professors is, what should be the education policy to produce actual engineers? What should we do? What kind of education will produce people who want to do engineering and not just get an engineering degree?
Yeah, in fact, this is all matter of this fear of missing out factors, and as long as the IT, e-commerce, fintech companies pay more, so much more than the core companies, I mean, the students are just choosing them, unfortunately, and I think it's what is there in the society now. As long as the society values money and not other things, students also will follow the same thing. I think these things need to be taught also at the family level. I think what do we expect our children to do kind of a thing. And at IIT Delhi, for example, we never advertise the pay packages. You will never see in the news about IIT students getting these 1 crore package, 2 crore package. Many of them come under pressure by listening to these stories, and everybody wants those high paying kind of jobs, and those high paying jobs are only available in fintech and other areas. So IIT Delhi is the only one institute in the country which never advertises the pay packages.
So I have a different view. We are trying to the question before us is, why is India not producing engineers who do engineering? We are producing IITians with the engineering thappa, but they're not doing engineering. One answer we got was that the craving for money is, therefore they're not doing engineering. But I have a different answer also. I think the reason industry is not doing engineering is because it is cheaper to import it. It is cheaper to license it than to develop it. So if you look at Defense Department, they are buying for tens of millions of dollars a Rafael jet, which is full of artificial intelligence, because we have all kind of AI engineers, but we don't develop our own AI. We let these guys go to some foreign country, make a lot of money developing the technology for them. So Indian brains are used for developing technology for foreign companies, and then these foreign companies who own the technology license it back to us. So India is a licensee. Its economy consists of two things. One is labor export, brains export. We're exporting lakhs of brains of Indians who are doing work for foreign companies building their patents. That is one economy. I'm very proud of it. I keep arguing about it for 10 years, 20, 15 years, but people are not interested because they make quick money. This is called jugaad, quick money, fast buck. That is the mentality of everybody from Tata's on down. They just want to make quick money, hire a IIT guy for $10,000 a year, rent him out for 30,000, 40,000, and you make a lot of money. You don't need to do any investment, no risk. So risk-free is the mentality. Risk-free and quick buck is the mentality of the industry. And then rent back, license back, unko thoda royalty de do. It's better to pay them royalty than to take the risk of developing it yourself. Whether it is pharmaceuticals, whether it is automobile, whatever technology it is, it's better to rent your brain and buy back the technology. This is the reason that the IITians are not being used as engineers, because there's not demand for engineering. There's a demand for all this other kind of jugaad. Now, this requires a shift in the total government policy towards industry. It is the responsibility of the ministries of industry to come up with policies such that we have domestic R&D. India's R&D as a percent of GDP is among the lowest in the world. And so we are we are not investing because R&D is risk. Government, I mean, industrial person doesn't want to take risk. He can make a lot of money without risk. Why should he take risk? Government is not investing in high risk R&D. So I think that the IITians cannot be blamed because that's where the opportunities are. It's for the country to create opportunities in genuine engineering. Question?
So there's a different perspective also. So there is a different perspective also. There is a different perspective also. The thing is that one of my very close relation, he is a gold medalist from IIT Delhi in electrical engineering. If I want him to fix the plug, he cannot do that. I'm not joking. He's a professor at IIT now. But what happens, we impart the training based all modeling, simulation, theoretical things. So many professors who have retired who are still working at IIT Delhi, mine, once I say, well, you do something experimentation, you know what is a dissertation or MTech is 20-page paper. That's a dissertation, that's all theoretical things. Now we have to change the pattern altogether and work it out. As for the industry is concerned, I was president with Tata's. I want persons who can produce the things and do the things. But we don't get it. So those are some of the fundamental problems which we have solved even from the IIT level, education. I'm an academician too. I'm really telling you, sir, take any engineer. They all have the bookish knowledge. They don't do anything practical. Practicals are written. It's not performed. They are sad state of affairs in the private universities also.
It's important to have a larger perspective, not generalize things too much. During the COVID time, right? Look at what IIT Delhi has contributed. The world's most affordable COVID testing kit came out of IIT Delhi. 399 rupees when they were charging 2,500 rupees. That came entirely out of IIT Delhi research from the faculty. Now the rupees 50 antigen kit, the rapid antibody antigen kit, that also came out of IIT Delhi exactly by the same faculty and students working on it. There is a lot of talent available in IITs, but unfortunately, even the kind of opportunities they get to work on those problems and who engages them for doing those problems is also very limited. In India, unfortunately that is an issue, but there is a lot of talent. There are people now, we all have labs where you can go and build systems and all that. The things are improving. I agree. There may be some people who are like that, but there are also people who take pride in actually building things.
I have on the same issue. One of the big differences between US technical education and Indian is that the US technical institutes also are funded for research. India has independent research institutions. When you look at the National Physical Labs and you look at all these different kind of research institutions, this is a Nehru's idea, keep the research institutions and educational institutions separate. This means that the educational institutions don't get enough research grants and they are not at the cutting edge of research. If they were combined, if the institutions where you are teaching were also the institutions where you're doing research, then your students would get involved in research. I was a computer science student, and my professor had, in the United States, my professor had grants from the Pentagon to do some very high-tech kind of work for the military, and I got military clearance to go and work on the project as a student, and I felt very excited. And so most higher education students in the United States work on research projects either funded by industry or funded by the military or the government. So in India, the government, if they were to combine research and education into the same institutions, and if the industry would give them grants rather than licensing the technology from abroad, they should give a grant to IIT and say, okay, we'll give you a grant over the next 5 years, 10 years, develop some technology and we'll own the rights to it. There should be an industry and education partnership. Industry academic partnership should be there. And then the government should also encourage, give grants to the universities. This will create a new kind of engineering education where you're not just learning from books, but you're also doing research. and you're doing research which is very meaningful.
Sir, Professor, there is no way the professors, the students of IITs are really cream of that age in the world, no doubt. When I used to talk to my friends at IIT, they say, well, they give us opportunity to teach. So that's the type of respect they have. But the thing is that the way we mold them, that's the basic question what I'm talking. I'm not saying there is a lack of talent, but we have to mold them accordingly. That we are not doing that. So it is the same situation, all the tier 2 engineering colleges also. So that's the point I'm saying. We have to make our way, our own. And then the industry will do that. I started a center of excellence at IIT Bombay. When I asked the director and the professors, what you will do? We will produce the PhD in the paper and go and say gaga, gaga. I go, no, I am giving you the grant to produce the patents and the products. And I had a lot of fight. Anyhow, thanks.
I'll add what you have said, Rajiv ji, this collaboration with the IITs. When I was Director General Weapons and Equipment in Army headquarters here in 2015-16, we started this with the IITs. Established chair of excellence, posted our serving officer to the IITs to interface between IIT and the requirement of the Army. So we gave them a set of requirements that, okay, you do research in this field and we'll fund it. And we have this IIT Delhi, we had with IIT Chennai, and the first one to actually jump at was IIT Gandhinagar, the new IIT who jumped at it. So this already started. We have then to meet that requirement, we have to establish and create a new organization, Army Design Bureau, to interface between IITs, the DRDO and others and the requirement of the Army headquarters. We started making the perspective plan open to the IITs and everybody so they can participate in the research and development. And the Army is encouraging these funds. On my own, to my department, I gave a lot of projects to the Department of Architecture in Zurki to do for the Army in mountains, remote areas, so that students gain first experience. It is actually the practical training and exposure of the students during these 4 or 5 years of state IITs. If they can go through that, then perfectly they will come out with better engineers. Otherwise, if you don't have no practical experience or no outdoor experience, then they only come out with theory masters and very little practical knowledge on the ground. And we have all faced it in our organizations. Same with the state, with the Army also. We had a lot of theory masters who have to send to remote areas to gain first-hand experience on ground. Thank you.
I can just add in that. Now perception among the faculty is also changing in IIT system. I can quote myself. हम 200 घरों से किचन वेस्ट लेते हैं आईटी कैंपस से, बायोगैस प्लांट में डालते हैं. जो बायोगैस बन रही है पिछले 11 साल से मेरी गाड़ी बायोगैस पे चल रही है. We upgraded technology, licensed it and patented it and licensed to many industries in our country. As well as I am filling that purified biogas into my car and requested the Ministry of Petroleum to launch a biofuel policy in 2018. वो सतत प्रोग्राम जो CBG वाला है वो based on our recommendations came out in the country. So now many faculty members are working towards social important technologies which are relevant to the society.
Hello, I have a question. This gentleman who's shouting, is he a neta shouting or just somebody's loudspeaker? I mean, does anybody know? No, but is there rules on, can we put our loudspeaker outside and we go more? What, is there some, is this like anybody, is some kind of, no, but there must be somebody from Blue One Inc. here who knows what the rules are. Is there any of the Blue One Inc. management here? Is there a Blue One Inc. management here? Can the Blue One Inc. management please pay attention that somebody is shouting over us? Are you aware that, are you doing something? धर्मेश जी, ये जो shouting हो रही है, ये कोई नेता कर रहा है कि कोई ऐसे ही कोई कर रहा है? हाँ? He's a neta, so we also put up a loudspeaker. No, but there must be some rules. This is not right. No, but this is not right. This is not right. When we should put our loudspeakers outside and just go wild. You know? But anyway, I think this is a very exciting. I'm really enjoying this. But you have a question. You answer. Did we answer your question? Okay. Okay, you asked the question. You need a mic. Yeah, come get a mic.
Much everyone. Based on everything that is being spoken about here, there's also push in the country for Make in India, Think for India, Work in India. How do you feel that at the same time now the government is opening up doors for Harvards to come in and Australian universities to come and settle in? And what is the kind of threat that you think that your premier colleges feel?
See, in the book Snakes in the Ganga, we talk about the dangers of American liberal arts education in America, having partnerships with universities like Ashoka and Kriya, and the damage it's causing. So you can only imagine what happens when we open the floodgates and have these very same universities open shop on the ground in India. The government feels that a lot of people are spending a lot of money going abroad, and that way they can keep this money within the country. But that's a uh, very small and narrow perspective. The damage you will do to the youth by bringing Western liberal arts is essentially the entire book, Snakes in the Ganga. Yeah. And we are not against science, we're not against technology, those kinds of institutions. We should welcome them if we don't have the capacity to build institutions for that need. But to bring in Western liberal arts, especially humanities and social sciences, these are all Western ideas on how you study Indian society. So we are training, we are paying taxpayer money, because these are all non-profits. These universities come in as non-profits. They'll start fundraising from here. So these will be ATG organizations. So they will ask for local donations, and they will be training Indians on how to think about Indian society, how to become activists. In fact, Western liberal arts education has failed America itself, and nobody studies that. We have to see what has the Western liberal arts curriculum produced, and I'm talking specifically about humanities and social sciences in the West itself. They can't find jobs. They are not employable. They don't have any skill. Other than being activists, they have no skill. So we are training an entire generation of youth. The parents are paying 10 lakhs a year or 40 lakhs for 4 years to get this liberal arts education, to become activists and be totally disconnected from the previous generation. And the government is having a new counter so that they can expedite this process of registration and all of that. We should really think hard. In fact, MIT has already a relationship with Kriya. And one would think that MIT is bringing in technology and space technology, things like that, to India. But MIT is not bringing that to Kriya University. It's bringing economics. In the name of economics, in the disguise of economics, they're bringing in, research to study caste and social problems and mine data. That's what MIT is doing with Kriya. So right now, even existing partnerships with Western universities, nobody's giving India anything worthwhile. Now you have these colleges come and set up shop here. It's the worst thing that the government can do.
Supporting the same view, contrast with China. China has shut down American collaborations on higher education that concern social sciences. They've said, we do not want you to study the Tibet problem or whether there's democracy in China or what is the history, what is wrong with society. None of your damn business. We do it ourselves. We teach what we want to our people the way we like. It is not that the Americans know more about us. We don't care what you think of us. We don't want to we don't want to have any involvement with you, either funding work done in your universities or bringing your people here that has to do with social justice and social or any of that. No, it's off. We are very happy to get our people trained and have technology exchanges where we need. So we talk about computer science and quantum computing and semiconductors and space and nanotechnology. They're very smart people. They're smart people. Almost 100% of the Chinese students who come to United States, that's the second largest, Indians are the largest, almost 100% of them are in STEM education. Hardly anybody goes to study some history of China, go to Harvard to study history of China. Why would you do that? And in India's case, a very large percent, I wish the government would publish records or percentages, and the trends. But a very large percent of the people are going and studying the social justice. They go here and they attend some Harvard program on India, and it's all about Dalits and about what happened here and there. And Indian billionaires like the Pira Malls and these Ambanis and the Tatas and Mittals and Mahindras are funding it. They're funding these things in America because it's very prestigious. So we have a very screwed up, messed up policy on both the education priorities in this country and what we are funding overseas. And to just open the doors that now foreign universities can come and set up, it should have been very clear. India will define what knowledge gaps exist in the national interest. You, the foreign company, university, can apply for permission to teach that in India, and then when we like your curriculum, your syllabus and whatnot, we will allow you to do it. That's what they should do. And the floodgates will open, they should allow that. And then they should say, after good behavior for 5 years, operating in India or whatever number of years, we will then consider allowing you more courses. But we should first only limit to courses where we have need, and not the other guys deciding what they want to teach, because this will open the floodgates to, we after a lot of lobbying, we convinced the government to stop foreign funding of NGOs because they were doing conversion and they were doing all these breaking India stuff. Now, instead of funding NGOs, they're starting their own universities here. So they've started bringing the Samp ka Ghosla here only. So this is making it worse, and government is sleeping. And we are totally against this, because everybody I've talked to from the HRD ministry and so on are clueless, and they are just very much enamored by the fact that some Gora Sahib will come and teach us. It means we must be very important. It's a deep inferiority complex that we have.
I will give you another perspective. You can make your own, judgment on that. For example, there is a UGC draft policy available where they are seeking suggestions. The one issue I see, which I have also provided my feedback. They are asking any university which is in the top 500, right? Even in the subject rankings, there are many Indian universities which are already in the top 500. In many subjects, we are even in the top 100. So there is no need to have all such, second-rated universities which are buying these ranks and, ranked somewhere, come and set up independent campuses. The difference is the government institutions have a lot of restrictions right now. If I want to order an equipment at IIT Delhi, it takes me full 11 months to order an equipment, because I have to seek so many approvals to order an equipment, this tender, that tender, seek ministry permissions, whereas a foreign university can just like that order that if they have money, right? So now, and again, there are lots of other challenges we have in government institutions. They will have none of that. So now you are getting all these second-rated universities into the country, giving them full freedom, right? And then, you are, on the other hand, you are stifling the government system, the government institutions with lot many rules and regulations. It is a very uneven kind of a field. My worry is, it might destroy even some of our finest institutions. If I were to do that, for example, the way I would have done is make them have joint campuses with Indian institutions. Now, for example, IIT Delhi, when I was a director, we wanted to create an agricultural campus in Jajjar, Haryana, jointly with University of Queensland. University of Queensland in the agriculture technology is among the top 5 in the world, right? Joining hands with them, University of Queensland, IIT Delhi, creating an extension campus for agriculture would have been a win-win partnership for both of us. I think government funding our top institutions to create joint campuses in areas where these foreign universities will bring their strengths would have elevated our system as well. But I think this red carpet to them create lot many more restrictions on IITs and all that. I am worried, which direction it will take us. So that's my only concern.
I fully agree with this. In fact, taking it further, the quotas that you have on your faculty you are discussing do not apply to the foreign universities. In fact, but I'm saying, in fact, it's very clearly mentioned that they will have no restrictions on the selection of faculty. They will have no restrictions on the pay grades. So what they'll do is pay 3 times the prevailing salary and suck up all the brilliant faculty, and they will charge very high value tuition. So the elites will send their kids, the people who are sending their kids to Ashoka and getting brainwashed with left wing, they will send it to the foreign campus. So those will become the next generation elites, the next generation of Indian elites in government, in private sector, in media, in everything will be trained by foreign universities here with the help of faculty that they've brought and with the help of curriculum and syllabus and reading material that they have brought. This is called the colonization of India. We keep parroting decolonization. There are all these manthans going on. There's one manthan in that Sundarnagar nursery also. And all these guys just parroting all this nonsense, out of touch with what the reality is. We are not decolonizing, we are recolonizing. We are getting recolonized in a whole new paradigm, maybe decolonizing from the 1800s British, decolonizing from the old British colonial, but now getting recolonized in a very different way.
I just have one more point. The government doesn't have to listen to any of us, but just sort of look around. So Rajiv ji talked about doing a census on what are the students from India studying. Saudi Arabia sends its students to the US. They have very strict rules on what Saudi students can study, what subject. They cannot even take an extra course. The minute they register for an extra course, the ministry will be notified and their funding is cut and then they are brought back. They are not allowed to do any social sciences or humanities course. They are supposed to stick to only STEM and medicine. This is Saudi Arabia, right? We're not talking about any other nation. Now, this is because this is how they send their students abroad to get education from America. Now, take Singapore. Singapore had a partnership with Yale University starting 2014. The MOU was for 10 years till 2024. It's ending. So Singapore saw what Yale, NUS, they started, and they saw what happened, and they said no more. They cut this thing with Yale University, saying that Singapore is a multicultural society, and we do not want this American liberal arts which talks about Chinese privilege and the Malays and the Tamils being the underclass. They say we're a small country which is very unified, and we don't want these Western social sciences which is causing disharmony in society. And therefore, they just cut it off. After the 10-year MOU, they said no more. So that's what the countries are doing. And whereas when all this evidence is there, we are bringing in. So it's just that we haven't done due diligence. We don't claim to be the experts. Just look around you, do your own due diligence, and then you'll realize.
I think the point is to bring the foreign universities, whatever autonomy you give them, give the same autonomy to our top institutions too. Create a level playing field. That's all what I'm saying. The second aspect which I also wrote to in response to UGC thing is, the faculty they recruit, right? They should be good enough to be recruited in their parent campuses. If Stanford opens a campus here, right, the faculty members should become the people they recruit here should be good enough to become a faculty member there. Don't recruit these third-rate, second-rated people just to run a campus here. You don't want American University in Cairo to start a campus in India, right? So you want the top universities in the world to come and start campuses. I think, if some of these are taken into account, personally, I have no issues. I don't want India to become Saudi Arabia or China or anything. We are an open society. We should remain an open society. But I have problems that, if we do it in a hurried kind of a way, we might destroy whatever we have created in this country. That's my only concern.
Parallel to what you said, make in India in defense sector. So when we opened up the FDIs for the foreign companies and start investing in India in 2015-16, and we were negotiating with the Americans to buy these government-to-government contract by anti-tank missiles. Say they put up very strict terms of conditions, including access to our warehousing. That if you allow us to enter the ordnance depots to inspect and these things, we said sorry, we don't want your equipment. Then we tasked the DRDO that how much time you want, went to Israelis to, this is a different story. But any foreign company who's established a business in India will always set terms and conditions. So you require the government of India to make policy framework that, okay, you will work under these policy frameworks. There will be no compromise with Indian national interest, no compromise whatsoever. So they can't indulge in any anti-national activities. And you will be governed by the laws of the land. So once whether it is income tax or ED, so once you apply these lot of everybody will come on board. You require a firm hand to make policies. You require a strong willpower to implement it on ground with family. Everybody falls in line. Nobody respects a weak guy. The world respects a stronger guy and the strength. But if you apply your strength, the way India is in a position to today, everybody will follow. And they will think twice before setting up business in India. This is the laws of the land. The laws of the land, what happens in Singapore? Our people go to Singapore, they suddenly change. What happens in US? Can you go against the American interests? Any Indian trying to go against the... so why in India? We have to be very strict from and put the Indian national interest in the center of all activities. Rest, everything will fall in line. Fortunately, today you have a prime minister who has very strong willpower to implement it. I'm not a politician, but with a lot of experience, I can say this.
Fascinating discussion. I learned so many things, but it is, I will limit to few things. One is why the UGC, PhD, they changed the rule suddenly, abruptly, that the ladder of anybody can go beyond without the earlier system. About a month ago, number one. Number two, while we are discussing here, PhD, anybody can go do PhD now. Those who, they don't have to do the masters and all that. As if we need more PhDs. The assumption that I understood, limited understanding, but you will know better why suddenly, abruptly, because some American committee has recommended. I'll tell you, day before, while we are discussing this here, just exactly day before yesterday, Stanford University done a report, what should be the fundamental schooling system in India should be. Can you imagine this? Stanford University, and one of the Prime Minister's advisor goes to release it there, or in a seminar called India Dialogue. And soon after that report, the 6+1 has become the admission criteria for class 1. I mean, I don't want to elaborate what I'm trying to sound. We are being dictated abruptly. We have a national education policy, 2-year deliberations, and using that as a launch pad, this kind of things. I know we are not talking about the elementary education here, but I'm just giving an example of that. I'm not able to understand the logics there.
I think the first question on the direct PhD thing, this is how IITs have been admitting students for ages. BTech to PhD is always common. The difference is when somebody goes from BTech to PhD, in the PhD we make that student take as many courses as he or she would have done at the master's level. So master's is not bypassed in a way. Whatever courses they would have taken in the master's, now they will do in the PhD before they actually do the research work. And in the process, they take longer time. So that is always there in Indian IITs. No, in IITs we don't do that. In IITs, a student who is seeking a direct admission will do as many courses as she or he would have done in the MTech level. So that is okay. I think this is giving more flexibility and freedom, which is actually a good policy that... of course, but they take longer. The direct PhD student usually takes longer than somebody who has done the masters, and I don't see any issue with that actually. The education, I am not an expert, and maybe the school education somebody can comment.
I'm so sorry, we are out of time. So thank you for this overwhelming response from everybody here. So all the panelists and guests, I would request you to please be with the volunteers and they will guide you for the further interactions. For the authors, I would want you to remain seated for the book signings. For the audience present here who wants to get their book signed by the authors, they can purchase the book from the counter and be in a queue on the left, right, on your right hand side. We'll be beginning with the book signings. Thank you for this session. Thank you all the panelists. Thank you the authors, and thank you audience.